Welcome to Southern Africa Direct, gateway to the undiscovered. To the undiscovered!
The Maluti mountain range is breathtakingly beautiful. Vividly colored, these mountains have been modeled through the ages by wind and water to form a majestic landscape of isolated piles of rock, numerous flat-topped mountains with precipitous cliffs, grassy summits and pools of water from summer rains. The Basotho people call this area Maluting, meaning a place of mountains, while Europeans named it the Drakensberg, meaning Dragon Mountain. There are many places in these mountains that are so remote from the outside world that they could easily be imagined to be the abodes of spirits or legendary monsters. The valley of Mautse lies isolated and deep in the mountain range. From its majestic slopes, the sound of cocks crowing echoes through the valley, while African drums telegraph an ancient, mystic rhythm. Welcome to Mautse, the place of living water and sacred valley of the Sangomas. Mautse, however, is not just a place where Sangomas or diviners come to practice their trade, but it's also where the history of the Sotho people is immortalized. This is the site where the Basotho king, Moshoeshoe I, fought some of his victorious battles with encroaching settlers and would-be colonizers. Many Sothos believe that his spirit lives in this valley, as do the spirits of many other ancestors. Believers come here to spend some quiet time, as they have done for a long, long time, in their hundreds to pray to their ancestors and to God. Diversity is one of South Africa's major drawcards. Among the many benefits of a new climate of open-mindedness, African spirituality and traditional healing practices have become more accessible to all, expanding our understanding of our multicultural society. It was in this spirit that we undertook the pilgrimage to Mautse, where we were to meet Sangoma Monica, a remarkable person. Sangomas are part of everyday life for many South Africans, and an enigma to others. Sangomas are called to their profession by their ancestors. The calling is the key to a Sangoma's authenticity. Persistent dreams, excessive amounts of bad luck, and physical or mental illness are usually the symptoms presented by a potential healer. All Sangomas have the ability and the obligation to teach, but the one who recognizes the signs in an individual is generally the one who undertakes the training. An arduous and disciplined process of self-sacrifice and learning on the part of the trainee that may take 5 years to complete, and at first are apprenticed to a teacher and trained to contact the ancestral spirits as a source of inspiration. This enables them to diagnose misfortune and illness. They also locate lost or stolen objects and tell fortunes. Ancestors are only seen in dreams, and a diviner or Sangoma alone has special powers to communicate with them. The Sangoma is concerned with the psychic world and is charged with ascertaining the cause of bad events, of protecting against evil spirits, and of exposing antisocial individuals. Whereas Western people tend to believe that they can choose a particular path or career, there's no question of choosing to become a Sangoma, and no course that can equip a would-be student who has not truly been called to service. Conversely, it's almost impossible to resist the calling once you've been chosen. At the bottom end of the valley, we were met by Thokozile, a young girl from Lesotho and apprentice to Sangoma Monica. It was immediately evident that we first had to be cleansed or purified before proceeding further into the valley. This meant that the blessings of the ancestral spirits had to be secured. Climbing into a natural hole in the rock, from which, it's said, steam emits during early mornings, Thokozile raised her arms in prayer to the spirits, and only then were we allowed to proceed. The first and very obvious thing to notice was how tame wild animals were. Hyraxes and birds were going about their daily business without any fear of man. Sangoma Monica, like all the other inhabitants of the valley, lives in a cave. She has a household which fluctuates in size as pupils, patients, devotees and others come to her. And it's here where she presides over the training of future Sangomas. In the first stage, the trainee, or Twasa, meaning blossom, is considered to be neither person nor spirit. These nobodies wear white garments, crawl on their knees, do hard physical work, and are not permitted to speak to anyone who has not given them a shiny object symbolizing the light. Eventually, the trainee dreams of a specific goat, whose gender, appearance, and location can be described. The goat is found, bought, and becomes part of a ritual in which the trainee enters a trance and identifies the places where various objects and the goat are hidden. When the tests are successfully accomplished, the goat is slaughtered, and the trainee, who now has blood, enters the second stage, where red clothing is worn, herbal medicine is studied, and divination abilities are refined. The most holy place in the Sacred Valley is the temple. It's situated beneath a large overhang on the steep mountainside and is difficult to access. A clear pool of holy water provides drinking water for devotees as well as for the birds, chickens, and other creatures like mice and rats that scurry about in search of food placed out for the ancestors. Don't worry about them, we're told. They're God's creatures, and we live together. Interesting to note are the many Christian symbols scattered about or placed in shrines. Other offerings to the ancestors included half cups of umqombothi, or African beer, money, tobacco, bread, and fruit. It would seem that the attendants to the temple are always present, even sleeping there, while devotees come mainly to pray. A hole in the rock is where prayers are offered in the temple. The devotee has to literally climb head first into the hole, where candles are then lit before prayers may be offered. Monica worked as a qualified nurse in a hospital in Johannesburg and belonged to the Catholic Church before she was called to become a Sangoma by the ancestors. She claims that as a child she already experienced visions of Mawutse, and when she eventually arrived in the valley, she instinctively knew where everything in the valley was situated. She knew where the cave was, which was to become her home. She knew where medicinal plants grew, and she knew the identity of her first patient who was waiting for her at the cave. Sangoma Monica's routine includes daily prayer, observation of certain standards of living, and regular cleansing of body and spirit through sweating and emetic medicines. The dried and plaited helichrysum plant, known locally as impepo, is burnt each day in her home out of respect for and to invoke the ancestors. People who have been raised in a Western environment may turn to a Sangoma when conventional medicine fails to cure them, or if they prefer a holistic approach that takes emotional and spiritual factors into consideration when diagnosing disease. Sangoma Monica's patients are not only from Africa, but also from as far afield as Holland, Sweden, and Germany. Engulfed by the majestic mountains, you feel as if you're at the beginning of the world. The inhabitants of the valley seem not to mind as we shoot footage of them. They carry on with their daily lives. Some are preparing meals in three-legged pots, others are collecting herbs and grass, or washing clothes in shallow wells. White people came with white civilization and made us believe in their gods, says Sangoma Monica. She waves her hands to the sky, as though she's addressing the angels. Africanism has been with us and will always be part of us. Only if you're a coconut black, then you'll be hooked in white civilization. Even with AIDS, she says, we're starting to do that. You tell someone they're going to die, and they'll get even worse. We do not accept yet that AIDS is irreversible, but we know the patient's will must be pulled out of a low place. Monica gave up nursing 24 years ago after being called by the ancestors to go to the Sacred Valley, to heal people and train others to become traditional healers. Since then, she has been in the mountains and will return only once she has fulfilled her duties. Whatever church you belong to, you're allowed to find a place of prayer here in Mawutse Valley. God works hand in hand with ancestors, and we are equal to him.